High in the misty Himalayas of Nepal, nestled in a sea of rhododendron forests, stood an ancient stone house. This house was whispered about in hushed tones, a place cloaked in mystery and fear. Here lived an old man and his young daughter, Anya, their lives deeply entwined with the dark arts. The house was a maze of shadowy corridors and cavernous rooms, each corner echoing with the remnants of ancient rituals. The air was thick with the smell of incense and herbs, a scent that clung to the senses. The old man, with eyes as dark as the night, was a master of the arcane. Anya, a child with an eerie knack for the supernatural, was his eager apprentice. Night was their time. As the moon cast its ghostly glow over the snow-capped peaks, father and daughter would descend into the basement, a dimly lit chamber filled with flickering candles. There, surrounded by occult symbols and strange artifacts, they performed their rituals. The old man, with a voice as deep as the earth, chanted ancient spells. Anya, her young face etched with a concentration beyond her years, assisted him, her hands deftly handling objects of power. They summoned spirits, bound demons, and explored the forbidden realms of the soul. But as Anya grew older, doubts began to creep into her mind. The initial thrill of discovery was replaced by a growing unease. The house, once a place of wonder, now seemed to suffocate her. She started seeing shadows that moved on their own and hearing whispers carried on the wind that chilled her to the bone. One night, during a particularly intense ritual, something went wrong. A surge of dark energy filled the room, suffocating them in blackness. The old man, his eyes wild with terror, screamed Anya's name before vanishing into the darkness. Anya was left alone. The only sound the relentless ticking of an ancient grandfather clock. When dawn broke, she emerged from the house, changed. The world outside seemed brighter, more alive. Yet, the house on the hill cast a long shadow over her life. She knew she had to escape, to break free from the darkness that had consumed her family. But as she looked back, a part of her felt a strange pull, as if she were bound to that place, forever tied to its secrets. Anya fled, the cold mountain air a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere within. Days turned into weeks as she distanced herself from the looming shadow of her past. Yet, the house on the hill continued to haunt her dreams, a dark specter that refused to be banished. Years later, driven by an unexplainable compulsion, Anya returned. The house stood as an eerie sentinel, its stones weathered by time and neglect. Inside, the darkness was even more profound, a palpable presence that seemed to seep from the very walls. Anya ventured deeper, drawn to the basement, the heart of darkness. The symbols on the floor were still there, their glow intensified by the dim light. As she knelt, a sense of familiarity washed over her. It was as if a part of her soul was trapped within those ancient patterns. Suddenly, the room erupted in a blinding light. Anya was thrown backward, her senses overwhelmed. When her vision cleared, the room was empty, save for a single, pulsating orb. It hovered in the center, emitting an otherworldly energy. Intrigued and terrified, Anya reached out to touch it. As her fingers grazed the orb, a surge of knowledge flooded her mind. The house, she realized, was a conduit, a portal to another dimension. Her father had been obsessed with opening a gateway to this realm, a place of immense power and unimaginable horror. But something had gone wrong. The ritual had backfired, trapping a malevolent entity within the house. And now, it was awakening. Anya knew she had to stop it. With newfound courage, she focused her mind, drawing on the knowledge she had gained. She began to chant, her voice echoing through the silent house. The orb pulsed with increasing intensity, the room shaking with the force of the struggle. The air around Anya grew heavy, as if the house itself was fighting back. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows dancing with malicious intent. The symbols on the floor glowed brighter, their lines pulsating with sinister energy. Anya's voice wavered, but she pressed on, her chant growing louder, more resolute. The orb responded, its pulsations growing erratic. Anya felt a surge of hope, but it was fleeting. The shadows around her coalesced into dark figures, their eyes burning with malevolent light. They whispered her name, their voices a cacophony of despair and malice. Anya's heart pounded, but she refused to yield. With a final, desperate cry, she completed the incantation. The orb exploded in a blinding flash of light, knocking Anya to the ground. The dark figures dissolved into shadows, their whispers fading into silence. The house trembled, its very foundations shaking as if in protest. When the dust settled, The house was eerily quiet. The symbols on the floor were gone, their power extinguished. Anya lay on the cold stone floor, exhausted but unbroken. She had done it. She had banished the darkness that had plagued her family for so long. Exhausted but triumphant, Anya stepped into the morning light. The house on the hill stood as a ghostly reminder of her ordeal. As she turned to leave, she felt a sense of peace. The darkness had been vanquished, and with it, a chapter of her life. Yet, as she looked back, she knew that the house on the hill would forever be part of her story, a testament to her courage and resilience. But peace was short-lived. As Anya walked away, she felt a chill run down her spine. She turned to see the house, its windows dark and lifeless. But in one window, she saw a figure, a shadowy silhouette, watching her. The sense of dread returned, more potent than ever. Anya's heart raced as she hurried down the path. The figure in the window seared into her mind. The house may have been silent, but it was not empty. The darkness she had fought was not gone. It had merely been pushed back, biding its time. Years passed, and Anya tried to move on. She built a life for herself far from the shadow of the house on the hill. But the nightmares persisted, filled with whispers and shadowy figures. She knew deep down that the house was still connected to her, its dark influence stretching across the distance. One night, she awoke to find herself standing at the edge of her bed, her hand outstretched as if reaching for something unseen. The old, familiar chill ran through her veins. She knew she could never truly escape the house and its dark legacy. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Anya returned to the Himalayas one last time. The house stood as it always had, an imposing silhouette against the misty backdrop. She entered cautiously, every step echoing through the empty halls. In the basement, she found the orb, once shattered, now whole and pulsating with an even more intense energy. The symbols had returned, glowing ominously. Anya realized with horror that the entity had not been destroyed but merely strengthened by her previous attempt to banish it. The shadows around her began to move, coalescing into a familiar, dark figure. It was her father, or rather, what remained of him. His eyes, once filled with depth and knowledge, were now empty voids. He spoke in a voice that was not his own, a voice that chilled Anya to her core. "You cannot destroy what you are a part of," the figure intoned. "The darkness is within you, as it is within this house. We are bound together, forever." Anya felt a surge of hopelessness. She realized that her father had not vanished that night. He had become one with the darkness. The entity had claimed him, and it was now coming for her. In a final act of desperation, Anya grabbed a ritual dagger from the altar. She knew there was only one way to end this. With a resolute heart, she plunged the dagger into her chest, chanting a final incantation. The room filled with a blinding light, and Anya felt herself being pulled into the abyss. The house trembled violently, the walls cracking and crumbling. As Anya's life force ebbed away, she saw the shadows dissolve, the dark energy dissipating into the ether. She had sacrificed herself to save others from the house's curse. When the light faded, the house stood in ruins, a testament to the darkness that once dwelled within. Anya's body lay lifeless on the cold stone floor, her face serene. The entity was gone, but at a great cost. The villagers who had long feared the house spoke of Anya's bravery, her name becoming a legend. But the house on the hill remained a place of dark history, a grim reminder of the power and horror that had once thrived within its walls. Anya's sacrifice had ended the curse, but the echoes of its darkness would linger, whispering through the mists of the Himalayas, a chilling tale of bravery, terror, and an unbreakable bond with the supernatural. Subscribe for more. I've got stories that will chill you to the bone. Tales of the unknown, the eerie, and the downright terrifying. Once we hit 100 subscribers, I'll share a real-life encounter that's so chilling, it'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Are you brave enough? Let's build a community of horror enthusiasts. Hit that subscribe button and get ready to be scared.